Welcome back to the Realty Funnels Podcast. I'm Kevin Cahill, and I'm so honored and delighted to have with me as a guest today Joseph Limo, who is a top real estate agent in California, serving the Inland Empire neighborhoods. Joseph, welcome.
Kevin, it's an honor to be here. Really glad to join you on this platform. So thank you very much for the warm welcome.
My pleasure. I'm just excited to have this opportunity to talk with you and just to have people understand a little bit better some of the things that you're doing right now that are really working in today's market here in 2025. But let's start by just having you give your introduction, tell everyone a little bit about yourself and how long you've been at this.
Sure. So I've been in the real estate business for a little over 20 years now. I am now a licensed broker here in Southern California. My transition into real estate was a little bit interesting. I was going to school to be a teacher, wanted to teach the third grade. Found my ambitions were a little bit more than just being in the classroom, and have an aunt and uncle that have been selling real estate in a really exclusive part of San Diego, and decided to join them. And that was like my transition point to real estate. And wow, I found my life's calling in that time.
And so how long have you been at this as a real estate agent?
It's been a little over 20 years now. I was 24 years old. So year 21 is coming up in just a couple months.
Nice. I just find it fascinating that what you've done is you've gone from a very formal career in teaching to this interesting business that we're in. And I've been at it for 25 years. So, practically the same amount of time. And I've always felt like we are sort of teachers, sort of guides to our clients, whether they're homeowners thinking about selling, buyers maybe purchasing for the first time, investors looking to grow their wealth through real estate. How have you found that transition to be for you and your business?
I realized even in teaching that my life's purpose and passion is to help other people accomplish their goals. And I just found that real estate's a really great vehicle, that it's a goal that's so tangible and it's such a life-changing event that I get to fulfill that purpose. So, when people ask, what do you really do? You get to the boiled down version of it. I help others accomplish their goals. It just happens to be through real estate. And so that was true in the education space, and it rings true here in real estate. And then funny enough, fast forward, I'm now a professor on the collegiate level for real estate at Mount Sac, which is a local school here. So it's funny how the life and world tends to come full circle. So purpose fulfilled.
I love it. It's so great how we are able to find whatever our unique calling is. And I sometimes look at it through this type of lens where God put me on this planet to do a certain thing. And I've been able to accomplish that through real estate as my platform. Other people accomplish it maybe in the pulpit, in the church. Other people accomplish it in the classroom, or they're firefighters, or they're police officers, or they're members of the military, or whatever it is for them. I too, though, have found it to be a great platform to really help a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because that same understanding of what my purpose is and who I am as a person, I think when I figured out how to not only triple down on just who I am, but how to intertwine it into my business as almost like a story about, what my business is and how it's specific to me, that changed the game. I was a super sensitive child. Okay. I was the kid on the basketball field, the first one to cry. Obviously now I've, toughened up a little bit, but I'm still just a genuinely interested person in others. I think that I'm really connected to having my word be my bond. I was raised that way by my grandparents, and my whole family, I feel like, is just a set of the most incredible people in the world. And I really aspire to contribute to that legacy. When I bring those three things to my real estate business, it creates a purpose and a drive that really allows me to be better and to do better for my clients the first time. That in combination with a lot of the personal development that I've had throughout the years has really just helped me to crystallize and understand them for myself, and then also be able to communicate it to my clients in a way, again, where it's a part of my branding now. It's a part of my business. And I think that's key for a lot of agents. Whoever you are, triple down and make sure you're communicating those core values about who you are in your business.
I love this notion of tripling down. In essence, it sounds to me like being authentic.
That's exactly right.
It sounds to me like reinvesting in my own growth. Are you a lifelong learner?
Man, I try to be a learner every single day, and that comes in a lot of different forms. I know as of late, my education has been just simply with how to teach my kids what I already know. I'm very lucky that, this profession has afforded me a lifestyle where I get to spend time where I choose to. I get to take my kids to school every single day. And I could just park and drop them off, but I choose to park, get off, and walk them to class. And for example, one of the things that I try to do is, how do I take some of these, important concepts about business or about personal development and boil them down to where a child can understand them, right? And one of the things, for example, we talk about often with my kids is how to make awesome sauce. Okay. So there's 3 ingredients in awesome sauce. Number 1, believe in yourself. Number 2, work hard. And number 3, visualization. Now, I think for a lot of people who are on the path of being constant learners and personal development, or even just business-minded individuals, I'm sure you could see how boiled down, right, that recipe is, but also how that opens up to a lot of different ways for them to continue to learn. But when we really kind of boil it down for the kids, that's awesome sauce. And so my kids know if they're going to have a great day and put some awesome sauce on their day, they need to believe in themselves, they need to work hard, and they need to visualize.
So when you teach your children to visualize, let's start by first off, how old are your kids right now?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. So 8 and 10 years old are my little ones.
And boy, girls, tell me about them.
One of each. Yep. I also have a 22-year-old daughter as well.
Okay, wonderful.
She knows beyond awesome sauce at this point, though.
And so it's very interesting when we think about writing copy for our websites, and we're creating books, and we're creating training manuals, we're creating courses. I know you do this, and I know I do this. We often have to take our very scholastic approach and run it through a filter to get it down to maybe a 5th grader's reading level, simply so that people can understand it faster, perhaps. And now you're teaching your 10-year-old, your 8-year-old, and they're looking up to their 22-year-old sibling and seeing these lessons play out in life. How are you teaching the concept of visualization?
Yeah, great question. So a lot of times when we're driving to school, I'll just simply ask them, all right, what are your goals for today? And they'll share with me. I love my son's final goal is always to be super happy. Not just happy, but to be super happy. I love that. But then I'll ask them, okay, close your eyes for a moment. And I want you to fast forward to me picking you up from school today. And today was an awesome day. What about today is going to make it awesome? And I want them to just kind of start to see in their minds what it is that's happening. And there are some times that I'll be a little more guided with them. Hey, I want you to see on a test day, for example, I want you to see getting that test back from your teacher and it's an A. You crushed it. Awesome. How does that feel? Going into the test, now that you got an A, how did you feel when you were taking it? So just trying to help them understand how to, leverage those neural connections and just experience something over and over and over again before it actually happens to tee them up for the most amount of success possible.
Were you presented these concepts and notions from your grandparents, or did you pick this up at some other point in your life?
Yeah, great question. So I worked for a personal development company before, still early on in my school days in college. And I think that's where I got the most amount of exposure. It was a company called Freedom Personal Development The leader and founder of that organization is still a great friend of mine. His name is Eric Plantenberg. If anyone wants to kind of see from someone who knows how to create an experiential understanding of personal development, he's excellent at that. Instead of just telling you what you should experience or what you should feel or how this should work, he provides you an opportunity to experience it for yourself. That's been the game changer. But that's where I picked up a lot of my personal growth, is my time working with that company.
You shared with me a link a couple of weeks ago to Eric's TEDx talk,
Yeah.
where he was in Bend, Oregon. I think it was called The Anatomy of Results.
Exactly right.
And I was blown away by it too, but now all of a sudden I'm connecting the dots.
Yes.
So here you are, having been highly influenced by a great leader, somebody who has some really sound concepts for, I think really, perhaps the best way to say it is just the essence of getting the life you want.
It is. And what's interesting is it actually helped me to have the filter of my past, so I could see how that's been true in people like my aunts and uncles and grandparents and cousins, where it's innate to them. And it's something that they couldn't communicate because they don't know what it is. It's just what they do. And so it's allowed me to look at a lot of my life experience and really identify why it's been so powerful. And I say this just so everyone's clear, because this is the set of tools, this is the power that I leverage in my real estate business every single day. Because Kevin, you and I both know things get tough out there. Markets shift, transactions fall apart with nothing that we could control or do about it. And sometimes people aren't having a great day. So if you pick up that phone and call them or knock on that door, you may not get a response that feels very good. Being really built up and empowered with this kind of energy and clarity about the world is what allows us to just keep moving forward, so that, you know, these things don't derail us from our goals. So it's been an X factor for me in a lot of ways, but one of the most important ways is that it's helped me to stay in my business. And again, this is coming from the super sensitive guy. It was real easy to get knocked off before, but now I know how to metabolize those things, internalize them, and use it as leverage and energy to keep moving forward.
Thank you for sharing all that.
Of course.
I really marvel at the opportunity that we have in residential real estate to really build the life of our dreams.
Mhm.
We can accomplish a freedom of time, a freedom of financial resources, cash flow, wealth, all through a very purposeful and committed approach to our own success. And you and I know that this industry has a huge divide between the people who are doing a ton of work and who are really crushing it year in and year out, and the enormous amount of churn at the lower level, where people jump into it, perhaps not really knowing what they're getting into, without a real business plan to have success,
Yes.
without perhaps the financial resources to allow for their eventual success that might just show up if they had stuck with it a touch longer.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
You teach a business planning course,
I do.
and I love business planning, and I love growing businesses, and I love helping real estate businesses and prop tech companies really grow. But there has to be a plan.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit about what you consider, the fundamentals of a sound business plan for real estate agents.
Absolutely. I break it down to a couple of quick pieces, and then I'm going to dive deep into some of those areas. First and foremost, I think every business plan, because we need to measure some type of metric, right? We can have a lot of aspirations. There's a lot of things that we want to do, but I think we need to start with something that we can track. For that reason, I think it's best to start with your income goal.
Mhm.
And from that income goal, we have the ability to reverse engineer all the way down to what are the number of conversations or the number of activities that we need to do on a weekly basis So that way we can really focus on our lead indicators instead of just looking for those lag indicators. And I think this is a really important concept for a lot of agents. I find that a lot of agents want to go and farm, or they want to build their SOI and build a business from their SOI. By the way, I'm about 90+% SOI in my real estate business now, but it's 20 years in the making. And if agents see some of the different ways to build a business, what's most attractive tends to be the approaches that take the most amount of time. And like you mentioned, Kevin, so many people quit before the incubation period of things to come back in terms of results because they're focused on the lag indicators, closings, commissions, those kinds of things. Whereas if they really understood what their lead indicators were and could count their wins on a weekly basis, it's going to keep you engaged, and it's going to help you know you're taking one step at a time to the success that you're looking for. In the business plan, though, because the second part is we got to build out our lead generation strategies, right? So in the business plan, then we need to make sure when you're looking at the type of client acquisition approaches that you have in mind, are they business now, business in the future, or somewhere in the middle? And for a lot of agents, they don't know what the incubation period is for some of these activities. So if we can help them get clear on that, then maybe we can build a better business model so that they're getting the income in the time that makes sense for them. And then for the third part of the business plan, get that business plan and put it in your calendar. It needs to integrate over, because so many of us take a business plan and go, great, it's done, and put it in the drawer and revisit it the next year. The easiest way to make sure it's a living document is that it gets integrated into your calendar. And then the last piece of it is this. Things happen in life, in real estate. We already talked about that. If you don't have a plan to get back on track after you've fallen off, then you're planning to fall off track and not get back on. So I think it's really key to identify in advance, hey, when things go bad, I have a bad week, a transaction fell out, and I need to get back on course. What are the practical tools and or steps that are right there for me? Because in that moment, I'm emotional, I'm unhappy, I'm deflated. I don't think I'm going to make the best decisions in that moment. If I plan in advance, now I just go to the blueprint of what I need to get back on course. And guess what? That was built with such better energy, and the decisions were better in that moment, and it helps you get back on course faster.
This is a perfect concept, a perfect way of looking at running a real estate agent business. It's right in lockstep with what I've been teaching real estate agents for about 21 years or so. I mean, it's so great. So everything that you're sharing is right on the spot. So we start with what we might hear, the trendy words right now are OKRs or KPIs, objectives and key results, key performance indicators or key productivity indicators. And the concept of lagging indicators versus leading indicators. I often teach, and I probably have it, one of my concepts that I teach all the time is 6, 12, 18, 6. Now, a lot of real estate agents have heard of, 5, 10, 15, 5. And I simply said, well, I'm going to crush it. So I'm going to do 20% more.
Wow, I love it.
So I went from 5, 10, 15, 5 to 6, 12, 18, 6. And the concept there, and the 6 and the 12 at the beginning can be switched if you're a brand new agent.
Sure.
So the 6 would be go out and meet 6 new people who you haven't met before. But if you're brand spanking new and you're committed to your success, go out and meet 12 new people that you haven't met before. And this is especially true if you're new to your market area, if you just moved into town and you got a real estate license and now you're wanting to have success. So go out and meet 12 new people every business day, so 5 days a week. At the end of the week, you've met 60 new people who you can put into your database and begin to nurture those relationships. But if you already are in the business and you're wanting to just simply scale your business a little bit better, then go out and meet 6 new people And then you're going to then have 30 new people in your database. Reach back out to then the 12 people. So you go out and meet 6 new people, reach out to 12 people who you already know and just foster those relationships.
Mhm.
And then write 18 personal notes. It used to be that I would write 18 handwritten notes or postcards, and people are like, Kev, really? I'm like, well, if you did that, it would really stand out nowadays.
Yes, indeed.
Indeed, it would totally stand out. You'd step up above anybody else in your local market area. If they actually got a personal handwritten note from you, you would really stand out. Yet I'm also fine with sending out 18 emails, text messages, personal touches saying, hey, it was great to meet you today. It was nice to reconnect with you today. Delighted to hear about your son and your daughter and how you're teaching them on the drive to school, and just excited for everything that you've got going on. Nothing, you don't have to pitch them. Hey, if ever you know of anyone who's thinking about real estate, you don't have to do that, but you just keep developing that relationship. And then the last 6 is go out and preview 6 homes a day.
Love it.
Keep on top of your market. Well, over the course of the years, agents who were struggling overwhelmingly weren't doing this. And the moment they committed to it, all of a sudden, most of their problems went away, because those are all leading indicators. If you do those things, the opportunities have to show up. They will absolutely show up. And so I love studying that. And the people who have success can look to it and say, yep, I did those things. It's like, I can't go to the gym for you. I can't eat right for you. You have to go out and do these things on your own. And so the business planning notion is something that should be on some type of piece of paper that is actually going to get into some plastic sleeve, because you're going to be looking at it all the time throughout the year. And then you can see, wow, I'm actually ahead of schedule, or wow, I'm behind schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to step up my actions.
Yep. The good news is if you know how to navigate, you can make the proper adjustments. And I think you're spot on, Kevin. Look, I think a lot of agents will hear what you just broke down and go, oh, I've heard that before. That's great if you've heard it before, but have you truly implemented it? And, my mantra for this year is to be habitual. Here's my concept. If we could take the key actions that we need to do on a daily or weekly basis and know them so well and commit to them as if it's the same as brushing our teeth. Think about how habitual we can become in just doing the right things that we know will lead us to the success that we want. And I want people to think about this. For some of us, if we don't do our door knocking or make our phone calls or write our notes today, okay, we didn't do it. We'll do it tomorrow. If you didn't brush your teeth this morning before you left the house, how easy would it be for you to just blow that off like, oh, whatever, I guess tomorrow? Most people would walk around mortified, hyper aware that they didn't brush their teeth. What if we could make it so that the right activities for the results that we want in our business and in our life and what's good for our family, what if we held it on that same level of habit, where if I didn't get to my calls and I had to go on an appointment, I know when I get back, the first thing I'm going to do is make my calls because I'm freaking out that it hasn't happened. So that's my mantra for this year, is to just simply be habitual. And the best way to do that is get so granular and so basic on what are the right things to do. And we just got to do that.
You were recently featured in a wonderful book, and you and I were introduced to each other by John D. Reyes. And John has his new book, 21 Strategies. And in this book, you talk about the importance of contracts, connections, and closings. Mm-hmm. Let's talk for a quick minute about what you share in John's book about the importance of that.
Yeah, so I'm going to share with everyone, especially given the changes in our industry lately. And I know that for California, and I'm sure it's true for many other states, there's been new versions of documents that have come out because of the changes that have happened across the country. One of the most simple and important things that I recommend for every agent to do is print in what I consider to be the trifecta of documents. Number one, your buyer broker agreement, whatever that is for your state or local, board. Number two, your contract or your offer contract. And number three, your listing agreement. I want you to print it, and I want you to have it on your desk every single day. And I want you to read it, if possible, to start every single week. I'm sorry, every single day. And then after that, every single week. I have mine right here, but I have it buried. If you can just read it front to cover, get a pen and paper and write notes on it, there are so many great things that are going to happen. You're going to have a ton of questions. You're going to start to understand and see this process about how all three of these documents play with each other. And you're going to become an expert. Okay. I teach real estate collegiately, right? It's so simple as read and be inquisitive, ask questions. You have your state broker, your broker for your company. You have the board of realtors, and often some of our board of realtors will come with some attorneys that they have that you can ask questions about the documents. Leverage those resources, because that is one of the easiest ways to really level up when it comes to your contracts. And remember, all of us can claim to be the best negotiators. We can be the loudest in the room or whatever. At the end of the day, those negotiations don't come to fruition until it's properly put into the contract. Real estate lives in between the four corners of that contract. And so if it doesn't live there, it just doesn't exist.
You can also leverage title companies. You can also leverage your mortgage lender friends, home inspectors. These are valuable resources who want to connect with you as an agent.
Great point.
They want to be supportive to you. They know that you're going to send them business, and yet they want you to send them good business. And so they're going to share with you everything that they can. And I found them to be phenomenal resources. And you and I are simpatico on this. I look at those as tools in my toolbox, and I better know how to use them.
Amen.
It's often surprising, and I've been a managing broker since 2009, and often just dealing with the breakdown of a transaction that should have continued forward, but for one reason or another, it didn't. And it's surprising and sad how often agents, sometimes my own agents, but oftentimes the other side to the transaction, they just don't really understand how the clauses work and how they all tie into each other, and how the timelines and how things couldn't possibly have a time deadline on a national holiday. It can't be the case. All of the agreements, no matter what state it is, none of them are going to have the home inspection window ends on the 4th of July. That can't happen.
Right.
So why are you guys fussing and fighting on the 4th of July when if you knew your contract, you'd know it extended to the next business day, whatever that might be? Yes, if I was hiring a contractor to build my kitchen cabinets and he didn't really quite know how to use his planer, I'd be like, I got to get me a better contractor.
That's exactly right. And it's so interesting, Kevin, how some agents don't understand their contracts and really get into depth on how these things play out in reality, and how easily they could, miss out on a negotiation because they're puffing their chest over something when they have no idea, like you mentioned, what happens when it lands on a holiday or a weekend naturally, because that can be different for a lot of different states. But if you don't know, then the other agent who does know could simply be like, we don't need to listen to any of that. Or they're not doing the right process of how to, cancel a contract or apply pressure to a buyer. All of these things are spelled out, but if you don't know how to leverage these tools like you talked about, it's all just hot air.
And it also puts that agent who isn't fully conversant in the tools of their trade into a position of weakness that is very, very difficult to climb out of inside of that transaction. Okay. You might learn, you might be better for the next one, but my goal is always to stay in a position of strength and to keep my client in a position of strength throughout the negotiation. And if you suddenly look like you don't know what you're doing, boy, you could rightfully lose a client, and that's just a shame. And it doesn't have to be that way. So yeah, definitely understand your contracts, print them out, have them at the ready as a working document that you understand how it works. And you teach on this stuff, don't you?
I do. And real estate is no joke. We sign a fiduciary relationship contract with our clients. So we have to understand what that means. And if we cannot perform to that highest level on their benefit and behalf, maybe we shouldn't be involved. And I'm not suggesting any of our agents shouldn't be. But what I am suggesting is print those things, read them once a day, at least for a week, and then once a week. And then after time, then start to read it once a month. I never go more than once a month without reading all three of those documents. And you'd be surprised how easy it is to forget, oh, that's right, this is how this thing works. So just keep in front of it as often as possible, and that will solve a majority of problems.
When I'm dealing with the other side to a transaction, my goal is really to just keep everything together, keep moving it to the close. Let's not create enemies here. Let's just all work together and get this stuff done. So I'll often very kindly and in a gentle voice say, hey, do you have the purchase agreement in front of you? And they'll say, sure, let me open it up. I'm like, okay, can you go to page 3? Go to clause 16 and then go to the subclause C. And can you just read that for me? And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, okay. Now, in light of that, can you go back to your client and let's figure out how we keep this thing moving forward? And they're like, Kev, thank you so much. Yeah. Because I didn't just hammer them over the head. I was like, hey, let's keep it going.
It's important to allow people to save face. Listen, I was that agent many years ago. Okay. So I understand. And I think that not trying to berate someone or beat them over the head is important, because I think, like you, Kevin, I don't want to hurt people in their lives at all. I don't want to derail someone from their career or their ambitions, but I do want to help them get better. And it's interesting because when I start a transaction, typically I will call the other agent and I'll say, listen, really excited to have a successful transaction with you. And I want you to know right out of the gate, we have a shared vision, and that's for us to have a successful transaction for both of our clients. I'm always very clear what my purpose is. And I'll share with them, hey, listen, I'm very collaborative. I know that both of us have a fiduciary duty to each of our clients, but I want you to know I'll never lose respect for the fact that you're trying to do what's best for your client. And I think that really sets the table for people to understand, yes, we have almost a naturally combative relationship because we have different parties that we represent, but that doesn't allow or doesn't negate the opportunity to have a very collaborative and a very successful approach to working things out together with that clear understanding. They're going to do things that are important to their client, and I respect that. And I think that sets the table nicely, kind of like what you mentioned, where if we come into a problem, you can have that kind of dialogue and make sure everyone's clear. Listen, this is a point of contention. Let's come back to the 4 corners of the contract and see what it spells out so we can move forward. Because at the end of the day, that's what everyone wants. They want each party to do what's best for themselves.
Lisa and I, over the years, with a very similar approach, and I admire your approach at the start of that negotiation and creating the accepted offer, you're already setting the table. I can't tell you how many times Lisa and I found ourselves in a multiple offer situation where we brought the buyer and the other agent said, Kevin, I've worked with you before. I want to work with you again. So I told my sellers to go ahead and take your offer. Why? Because they knew that this was going to close. It was going to work out really well. Lisa and I were super professional about all this. And wouldn't they, given the choice between that we know for sure and this other offer, I don't know who that agent is. I don't know what their track record is. I've looked them up. I can't really see much about their track record. But Kevin and Lisa, oh yeah, we want to work with them again. Same thing must have happened for you many, many times.
Kevin, I'll tell you this. I think it's one of the biggest points of value that a consumer can have around the agent that they select to work with. And so many people as consumers, don't know how to look for it or how to even understand that value, because I think you are absolutely right on the listing side and the buying side. There's a lot of agents when I have a listing that, specifically say, hey, listen, if we go and if you like this home, This is an agent that I know is going to do things the right way. And it really does help my sellers. And of course, on the buy side, when people have worked with me before and they understand that level of professionalism and collaboration, they want to have another transaction. So you're spot on. And I don't think consumers understand that that value even exists, let alone how important it is for them. And then for the agents, protect that. Sometimes we have clients that are a little sideways and crazy, and we want to just make sure that we do what's right for them. That's our duty. But also just make sure that we're protecting that agents don't look at us like we're numbskulls because we continually do crazy things with people that we don't have any control over. And we can't force our clients to do anything. It's not what I'm suggesting. But at least speak to them in a way that they can understand that maybe what they're attempting to do is either not within the contract, it's not of custom for our market, whatever it is. So at least that way they're making decisions with your professional guidance. That you need to protect that real goodwill that other agents have to wanting to work with you. It's invaluable for your clients.
We express that all the time with home sellers. Local agents know that our listings are priced right, that they're going to go very quickly, and that if they're serious about getting their buyer in here, they need to drop what they're doing and get over and see your listing right away. And if you price it like that, then you're going against all the goodwill that we've built up in this community, and you may as well take advantage of all that goodwill that we've built.
Love it.
Yeah.
And I think it's important because the last thing is you can have all those things as far as like the relationships and people seeing you that way. If you don't know how to communicate that value, all for naught.
You have a Monday mastermind. Let's give people an opportunity to learn more about that. Where would they go to learn about your Monday mastermind?
Absolutely. So the easiest way is just go to my link tree. Kevin will put that on the screen for everyone. If you just want to go to my link tree, the second option there is to join the Monday mastermind. This is a mastermind I've been running for about 7 years. And it's been interesting because probably the first year it was me and maybe 2 other agents, right? Now it's evolved and grown to a community of usually about 30 to 50 agents, a significant amount from California, but you'd be surprised that probably more than half are from other states across the US. And this is an opportunity for us to do a couple of things. One, I often will have guests on because I want to give our agents an opportunity to learn from others, different strategies, approaches, you name it, and really engage with them. But I always make sure that my guests understand my mastermind is about how to. There's a lot of people out there in the real estate space, and this is their prerogative, and I love it for them. But a lot of people want to tell people what to do. I want to get into how to do it. And so that's always my focus on my mastermind. One of the meetings every month is just us masterminding. There is no content. We show up. I call it a free flow session, and we engage with each other. This is a community that knows we're here to build each other. So it's a really beautiful opportunity every month when we come together, and some of our best meetings and the best dialogue and the best nuggets come from that free flow. And then I want to get them as frequent as once a month, but right now they're happening about once every other month. I do a live role play. So this is where I'll invite someone on who's a master in the business, and we're going to role play a specific scenario. Everyone's on mute. Another agent shows up as like the client, and we just let them role play together. And then we do Q&A thereafter. So we can not only see their sales approach or their, how they consult a client, but then afterwards, we really get to deep dive into the methodology behind it, and why they did certain things. And I think that's been really instrumental for our agents to extract out what they see other people do to better understand how they can integrate it in their business as well.
So you can go to linktree/JLimo, and that's linktr.ee/JLIMO. And you've got a lot of valuable free resources there that agents can just jump in, play around, and see how you can be a help to them. And let's give everyone your email address as well, the best way for them to reach you by email if they wanted to do that. Go right ahead.
Yep. Joseph.limo@exprealty.com. My purpose out here is to help other people accomplish their goals. And again, a lot of that focuses on my clients, but man, just know a lot of that is also on agents out there in the world. I
And
find that if I can add value to agents and we have better relationships, and like we talked about, that transpires to better results for my clients too.
we all grow. We all grow when we pour into each other. I'm a student as much as I'm a teacher. And a good
Amen.
phone number for you?
Yep. Area code 909-559-0168. And I would love to engage with anyone who's looking for additional support, help, or like I said, if I can help someone's life be better, that's me trying to make sure that I'm adding to my family's legacy of just being absolutely incredible and making this life a better place, or this world a better place, I should say.
Joseph, thank you so much for joining us on the Realty Funnels podcast. I could just talk with you all day, I know. So at some point, we'll have you back again for another conversation.
I'd be excited to join you guys again. Thank you for a great conversation and for the spotlight today. It's an honor. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Joseph. Thanks, everyone, for paying attention, for being here. And we look forward to catching you on the next Realty Funnels podcast.